Bullies destroyed the disabled girl's wheelchair. Then her military brother left everyone speechless. Is this what you call a joke? Emma Carter spat her voice, barely rising above the metallic crash echoing through the bustling Jefferson High cafeteria. One moment, she'd been rolling toward her lunch tray, the next. Her custom wheelchair, her legs, her freedom shattered beneath a baseball bat wielded by Ryan Hayes. The frame buckled like a cheap toy, shards of titanium and carbon fiber skittering across the linoleum as a trio of sneering seniors laughed at her sprawling form. Maya Rodriguez's phone was already recording her wide eyes, reflecting the same horror Emma felt in her chest. This wasn't just a prank. It was an act of calculated cruelty aimed at the one black disabled girl in a school that prided itself on unity in diversity. Emma's prosthetic leg dangled at an impossible angle, the hydraulic joint gouged and sparking. She tasted iron on her tongue, blood or rage, she couldn't tell which, and pressed her palms into the cafeteria tiles. She refused to let a single tear betray the humiliation she'd endured day after day. The cafeteria fell silent. 200 students froze mid-bite. Some raised their phones to capture the moment, others looked away, unwilling to confront their own cowardice. But Emma saw in every face the reflection of a society comfortable watching its most vulnerable members fall. "You're going to regret this," she whispered, voice quivering with controlled fury. Tyler Brooks kicked the fragmented control panel just out of her reach. "Stay down, freak," he jeered, stepping over her like she was roadkill. Ethan Moore tipped his chocolate milk onto her head, the sticky liquid cascading down her braids, each drop a reminder of her isolation. "Can you even shower yourself?" he taunted. The question hung in the air like a verdict: you don't belong here. Emma clenched her jaw. For 3 months, she had filed 17 separate harassment reports, each dismissed, each buried by a school system more intent on preserving its image than protecting its students. She had learned early that tears only fueled their cruelty. Instead, she had stockpiled her humiliation like kindling, waiting for the moment to ignite. Her heartbeat hammered in her ears. Around her, the cafeteria's fluorescent lights flickered, as if protesting the injustice. A deep exhale. Emma squared her shoulders. The world thought they had stripped her of dignity. Instead, they'd awakened something feral inside her. She crawled forward each centimeter, a testament to a spirit unbreakable by malice. She wrapped her fingers around a piece of shattered armrest, the very component her brother Jake had designed for her before deploying overseas. That armrest was more than metal. It was a promise of resilience, a symbol of all the nights he'd stayed up tweaking the pressure sensors so she could control her chair with one hand. As Emma paused, chest heaving, her gaze locked on the cafeteria doors, a sudden buzz rattled the hallway beyond. Phones lit up with incoming TikTok alerts. Justice for Emma was already trending. The hum of the crowd shifted, anticipation bubbling like a storm. Maya edged closer. Phone held steady, her voice, a quiet incantation. "They're going to see you. All of them." Emma's eyes flared, not with fear, but with purpose. She lifted the armrest high above her head, its broken wires trailing like scars, and roared a single word. "Watch." In the tense stillness, the metal doors at the far end groaned on their hinges. Something massive banged against them, an arrival that would change everything. Emma's heart thundered in her chest as she prepared to face what came next. "Think you can break me?" Emma Carter's voice cut through the tension sharp as shattered glass, even before the cafeteria doors burst open with a thunderous crash. In an instant, the sneers and jeers vanished, replaced by a hush as the heavy metal doors slammed against the walls. Standing tall in the threshold was Jake Carter, Emma's older brother, back from his final tour in Afghanistan just 24 hours ago. He wore his dress uniform, the metals glinting under the harsh fluorescent lights, but it was his eyes, steeled by combat, haunted by duty, that stunned everyone into stillness. He took a single step forward, and the cafeteria seemed to part around him like a tide obeying a higher command. Emma lay on the floor, her torn armrest clutched in one hand, her custom wheelchair reduced to a mangled wreck at her side. Blood tinged the corner of her lip, but her posture was defiant. Jake crouched beside her, his massive frame immense, yet impossibly gentle, as he brushed the chocolate milk from her braided hair with a crisp white handkerchief. "You okay?" he murmured, voice low but unyielding. Emma nodded, pride warring with pain. "My chair is broken," she said quietly, "but I'm not." He helped her to a sitting position, careful not to crumple the expensive titanium frame that had once cradled her like a second skin. "This armrest," Emma said, lifting the jagged piece you programmed the pressure sensors yourself. Jake traced a finger over the circuitry, his brow furrowing in both sorrow and resolve. 3 weeks of coding nights, without sleep, he said. Worth every line. But this isn't just about you or me. It's about every kid who's been told they don't belong. The words hovered between them like a shared battle cry. At that moment, Tyler Brooks, the same boy who'd kicked Emma's controls away, stepped forward, phone in hand. His lips trembled. "Jake, wait," he began, but Jake's hand shot out palm flat against Tyler's chest. "Don't." The gesture was more powerful than any shout. "You filmed this?" Jake said, voice a quiet roar. Tyler's eyes flickered to Maya Rodriguez's phone, still recording. "Good," Jake continued. "Send every clip to my email. I'm thinking the ACLU might have something to say about assaulting a disabled student." Tyler swallowed hard, phone trembling in his sweaty grasp. Across the room, Dr. Miller, the school principal, hovered near the exit, flanked by 2 security guards. His mouth opened, then snapped shut when Jake turned his gaze on him. Jake rose, dusting off his uniform, and strode toward the trio of bullies. Ryan Hayes attempted a swaggering grin, but it faltered under Jake's omnipotent stare. "You broke her freedom," Jake said, voice unnervingly calm. "You humiliated her. That's hate. That's assault. And you'll answer for it." He flicked his wrist, revealing a phone already keyed with emails to the local news, to district attorneys, to disability rights groups. The cafeteria crackled with electricity. Students held their breath, waiting to see if Jake would unleash the military fury everyone expected. Instead, he turned on his heel and picked up a lunch tray, stacking Emma's favorite items with the ease of habit. Tyler's jaw dropped. Maya blinked back tears. Ryan's bravado collapsed into guilt. Jake returned, setting the tray beside Emma. "Here's lunch," he said softly. "And evidence." He tapped his phone. "We go live in 3, 2. At that signal, TikTok notifications exploded across 1,000 screens. Justice for Emma was trending globally. Emma's heartbeat thundered as cameras panned the ruined wheelchair, the 3 pals now frozen in shame, and her brother solid, unbreakable, as he prepared to make them pay. But just as Jake's finger hovered over Go Live, the fire alarm blared, red lights pulsed. The sprinklers primed. Confusion rippled through the crowd. Emma's heart lurched. Was this sabotage or a twist she hadn't seen coming? "You think sprinklers can wash away the truth?" Emma Carter thought as icy water rained down, drenching everyone in a sudden storm of forced silence. Within seconds, the cafeteria transformed into a chaotic tableau. Lunch trays slid off tables, phones sputtered to life as water activated screens, and students scrambled for cover, their viral justice. For Emma, livestream choked by static. But Emma didn't flinch. If anything, the deluge ignited a fire inside her. Every drop of cold water was a reminder of how the world tried to drown out her voice, and how she refused to be silenced again. Her brother Jake's jaw clenched, beside her uniform plastered to his broad shoulders, but his eyes remained laser-focused. He reached for Emma's armrest shard, her symbol of resistance, and held it steady, even as the sprinkler system hammered down. "We need to move," he shouted over the roar voice, carrying the authority of someone who'd navigated minefields and bureaucratic landmines alike. Emma lurched to her feet, skirt of her dress, soaked breathing in the acrid scent of chlorine and fear. This was supposed to be her moment, the world watching as she reclaimed her dignity. Instead, someone had triggered the building's fire suppression, an obvious ploy to silence her. Heart pounding, Emma rolled toward the exit ramp, shards of her old life still rattling in her hand. The hall beyond was flooded to fluorescent lights, reflecting on puddles that formed miniature mirrors of every onlooker's stunned face. She scanned the crowd. Some students cowered, others shot guilty glances at Dr. Miller, who fumbled with his radio as if trying to call off the ruse. The very system that was meant to protect them was now weaponized against the only girl brave enough to stand up. It stung because she had believed in that system, once had trusted it to keep her safe. As they reached the doors, a sharp twist of logic snapped into place. Sprinklers only activate if someone manually trips the alarm pull station. That meant someone on the inside, a custodian, a teacher, or worse, an administrator, had sabotaged her stand for justice. The realization threatened to swallow her, but Emma steadied her breath and tightened her grip on the armrest. Symbols mattered. This fragment wasn't just debris, it was proof that she and every marginalized student had to fight both the bullies and the institutions that enabled them. Jake cleared a path through the crowd as Maya Rodriguez shielded the phone from the downpour, capturing each wet footprint. Emma left like a watermark of courage. Social media feeds exploded anew. Viewers flooded comments, accusing the school of collusion, demanding answers from Dr. Miller and Carl Johnson, the mayor, whose son's assault she exposed. The dam of complacency was cracking, and Emma could almost hear it groan under the weight of collective outrage. But, just as they reached the stairwell, a voice crackled over the principal's handheld speaker. "Evacuate immediately." This is not a drill. The command sounded official to official. Emma's pulse surged. Was someone pulling them out to protect them or to bury the story in a lockdown? She looked up at Jake, eyes blazing. "They're trying to trap us," she said. He nodded, voice low but certain. "Then we'll break out another way." Behind them, the hallway split into two corridors, one leading to the heart of the school's administrative offices, where erased reports and hidden cameras likely lay, and one snake-like fire exit promising anonymity, but no answers. Emma's next move would risk everything: privacy for proof, safety for transparency. She inhaled soaking wet and unbowed. The sprinkler's roar faded into a tense hum as she made her choice. Ready to expose every dirty secret, Emma Carter hissed, heart hammering, as she and Jake slipped past the flooded stairwell into the hushed corridor beyond. Rain from the sabotage sprinklers still dripped from ceiling vents, pooling around the embossed plaque that read, "Jefferson High Administration." She steadied herself, pressing the jagged armrest shard against her thigh like a talisman. Each drop of water that mirrored her determined glare was a reminder institutions bleed too if you know where to cut. The hallway walls were lined with framed commendations and student awards, symbols of pride and achievement now mocking in their irony. Here, behind glossy veneers, lay the records of every harassment report Emma had filed, 17 pleas for help that vanished like tears in the rain. She scanned the floor for a loose tile, the metal edge of the shard catching the little flicker of reflection she needed. With a quick popsicle stick maneuver, she pried up a corner, revealing a thin arrow crudely scratched in the concrete beneath evidence of someone else's clandestine escape route. A twist of logic clicked: the same person who tripped the sprinklers likely left this mark guiding Emma toward hard proof. Jake crouched beside her, voice low but urgent. This way, he breathed, pointing down a narrow passage that led behind a row of teacher offices. Emma nodded in pain and adrenaline coiling together as she hauled herself forward. Every roll her wheelchair made sent echoes ricocheting off lockers, amplifying the risk of discovery. They reached a heavy metal door, marked files, a vault of bureaucratic secrets. Emma's fingers trembled as she scanned the lock for a keycard slot. Trusting instincts honed from late-night gaming marathons, she retrieved a strip of aluminum she'd filched from a broken security barrier earlier. With a whispered, "Come on," she slid it into the latch. Sparks briefly flickered, then a metallic click, and the door sagged open. Inside, fluorescent lights hummed over rows of filing cabinets, their drawers stamped with years of archived names, discipline, maintenance complaints. Emma's breath caught at the sight. She wheeled, deeper eyes darting to rows labeled student concerns. One cabinet drawer was slightly ajar, as though someone had searched in haste. With Jake's steadying hand on her shoulder, she lifted the drawer and plunged in. Manila folders spilled forth each tab, revealing a name, a date, a plea relegated to oblivion. She found 16 of her own dates, times teacher signatures, all voided with a single stamped word: dismissed. Beneath lay something worse, an unmarked folder containing emails between Dr. Miller and Mayor Johnson discussing protecting the school's image at the expense of minor complaints. Her blood ran cold. A memory flashed: the broken armrest shard, once a symbol of her brother's love, now a key to unmasking systemic betrayal. Emma grabbed the folder, her palms slick with fear and resolve. She looked at Jake, his eyes glimmered with pride. "We have them," she whispered, voice tight. "We have everything." Outside, distant sirens wailed a reminder that help and hindrance often arrive in the same chorus. She took a shaky breath and tapped her phone to begin a secure upload. Files would stream to civil rights lawyers, news outlets, social media feeds, every platform, a crack in the fortress of denial. But before the upload reached 30%, heavy footsteps thundered down the corridor. The door to the vault rattled, and a voice snarled. "What are you doing in here?" Emma's chest tightened. She lifted the folder like a shield, trembling but unbowed. "I'm making sure the world hears the truth." The lock clicked as the door handle turned. In that heartbeat, Emma knew the next confrontation would demand more than courage. It would demand justice. "You think you can lock me away in here?" Emma Carter's defiance rang out like a warning shot as the vault door swung wider, revealing Dr. Miller's stern silhouette framed by flickering fluorescent light. Emma clutched the incriminating folder of erased reports and clandestine emails to her chest, her soaked dress clinging like armor. She'd risked everything: her safety, her dignity, her trust in the system, to drag this truth into the open. Now faced with the man who'd once smiled and patted her shoulder while shredding her cries for help, she felt a rush of adrenaline and righteous fury. Dr. Miller stepped in, hands raised in a placating gesture. "Emma, this isn't how," he began, voice trembling between authority and guilt. Emma cut him off, voice low but electric. "This is exactly how. You hid 16 of my reports. You conspired with Mayor Johnson to silence me to protect a political career over a human being." She spread the emails on a nearby desk, subject lines like "contain the fallout and minor complaints, major optics." Each word was a social scar, proof that prejudice wasn't just in Ryan's baseball bat, but woven into institutional fabric. Jake emerged behind her, keeping an eye on the corridor. His presence was both shield and statement. A soldier turned guardian, defending his sister's right to exist without fear. Emma's heart pounded, not with fear, but with conviction. She hit send on her phone, and the upload bar skyrocketed. Documents streamed to civil rights lawyers, to local reporters, to Twitter and Instagram feeds. Justice for Emma surged as files landed in public inboxes. The system that had tried to drown her voice was now bleeding secret after secret, and there was no draining it back. Miller paled, realizing his career and the school district's funding were dangling by a thread. He glanced nervously at the security camera overhead, the same camera whose footage he'd ignored until now. Emma stepped forward, planting the armrest shard on Miller's desk like a gavel. "This," she said, voice trembling with controlled rage, "is the symbol of every promise you broke." Her gaze burned. The shard represented her brother's love, her own autonomy, and the institutional complicity she refused to accept. Suddenly, a soft voice echoed from the doorway. "I'm sorry." Mrs. Ortiz, the school board member Emma had only glimpsed during meetings, stood clutching a stack of printed statements. Her eyes shone with unshed tears. "I found these in my office reports you asked me to destroy." Ortiz admitted. "I didn't want to, but I was afraid. I chose fear over justice. I'm fixing that now." She threw the statements onto the desk beside Emma's folder. The unexpected confession was a twist that cut deeper than betrayal. It showed that the real battle was as much internal as external, and that courage could arrive from the most unlikely ally. Emma's chest tightened. This was more than vindication. It was a reckoning, a collective awakening. But the sound of sirens outside blared closer, and the overhead speaker crackled. Security to administrative, wing code red. Emma exchanged a look with Jake. The door groaned under incoming footsteps. In that heartbeat, she realized the storm she'd unleashed would demand one final stand. I'm not done until every lie is dragged into the light. Emma Carter growled as she burst from the administrative wing folder, clutched like a trophy of justice. Sirens roared closer, their wail bouncing off lockers and empty classrooms, but Emma felt only clarity. She had shattered the illusion of safety Jefferson High promised. And now, the world would watch the pieces fall. Beside her, Jake Carter moved with soldierly precision, guiding her through a gauntlet of faculty and security guards who froze at the sight of the email confirmations pinging on their phones. Each delivered notification echoed like a verdict. Emma's wheelchair wheels spun through the hallway, with purpose splashing puddles still lingering from the sprinkler roost. Her heart hammered not from fear, but from a primal surge of righteous power, the same power that Jake had taught her to harness when they were kids building model rockets believing they could defy gravity. Now, gravity wasn't the only thing they were defying. They were defying apathy, complicity, and the inertia of a system built to maintain comfort for the powerful. The tension in the hall peaked when a crowd of students and teachers gathered at the main entrance phones, out capturing every fierce moment. Emma paused at the threshold, scanning their faces. Some terrified, some elated, all changed. A janitor. Old Ramon stood at the doorway with tears in his eyes. He'd been Emma's silent supporter, wiping down her station during lunch, but powerless to intervene. Today, he raised a rag in solidarity, as if waving a white flag of truce with injustice. That simple gesture cut deeper than any apology. As Emma and Jake rolled outside, the midday sun glinted off her wet braids, turning them into living streaks of fire. Reporters flocked around the entrance microphones extended like stakes, aimed at the heart of every lie the school had told. Emma breathed deeply, the armrest shard now secured in her backpack, a constant reminder that every tool of oppression could be repurposed as a weapon for change. The shard, once part of her broken chair, had become a talisman of accountability. Then came the twist. Emma's phone buzzed with a direct message from Tyler Brooks, the boy who'd kicked her armrest away. His text read, "Help me fix this. Where do I sign?" Emma's pulse skipped. Tyler's betrayal had run deep, but here he was, offering allegiance at the last minute. This unexpected act of contrition symbolized the possibility of transformation within even the most complicit hearts. But Emma hesitated. Could she trust a turncoat so steeped in the old system? Just as she prepared to type a reply, a black SUV screeched to a halt in front of the building. The tinted windows rolled down, revealing 2 state troopers, their badges gleaming. Jake's jaw tightened. State law enforcement meant the stakes had escalated beyond campus. The troopers stepped out, radios in hand-scanning faces. The first trooper's eyes locked on Emma's fierce gaze and the shadow of the armrest shard near her backpack. His partner's hand hovered over his belt. Emma inhaled her mind, racing stand her ground and risk arrest or retreat, and let the moment slip away. The sunlight glared as if spotlighting her every thought. Around her, the murmurs of the crowd grew into a low roar, demanding to know if the law would protect the powerful or stand with the victim. Emma met Jake's eyes, finding steel in his calm. This was no longer just a fight for her freedom. It was a battle for the soul of Jefferson High. As the troopers advanced, Emma wheeled forward, armrest strapped like a badge of honor, and shouted, "You're either with justice or you're on the wrong side of history." The troopers froze, but would they listen? "Do you really think a few documents can bury me?" Emma Carter's challenge sliced through the charged air as she faced the state troopers, her wheelchair wheels grinding against the pavement like protest drums. Around her, the crowd's anger rippled a living barrier between her and the law enforcement officers who hesitated, caught between duty and the undeniable moral weight of her stance. Emma held her chin high, the shard of her brother's armrest peeking from her backpack like a worn badge of defiance. It had become more than hardware. It was the symbol of every silenced plea and every shattered promise the system had tried to hide. Sunlight glinted off the troopers' badges as the senior officer, Captain Reynolds, adjusted his mirrored sunglasses and cleared his throat. "Miss Carter, step away from the entrance," he ordered, voice measured but firm. Emma's pulse thrummed in her ears. Every instinct screamed to obey, yet her conviction rooted her in place. "Step away from injustice," she countered, her voice steady. "You were sworn to protect and serve everyone, not shield the powerful at the expense of the vulnerable." The crowd surged forward, phones thrust skyward, turning their collective gaze into a spotlight that exposed the moral fissure in every echoing siren. Behind Emma, Jake's silhouette was a human rampart, arms crossed, uniform pressed and determined. And his presence amplified her strength, a reminder of battles fought in war zones, and how genuine courage thrived not on violence, but on unwavering principles. Emma felt the memory of their childhood promise. "We'll always have each other's backs." Today, that promise was her anchor. The troopers exchanged glances, the younger one's fingers twitching near his holster. Emma couldn't know if they empathized or feared the storm of public scrutiny crashing around them, but she sensed their hesitation. Then came a twist that no one expected. Captain Reynolds stepped aside, yielding the path. "Proceed, Miss Carter," he said, voice softening. In that single gesture, he acknowledged that true authority sometimes meant standing down in the face of moral clarity. Emma's chest swelled, not with triumph over him, but with the bittersweet knowledge that change often came from those willing to admit they were wrong. She wheeled through the open space, feeling the crowd part like a river, the roar of support rolling behind her. As she crossed the threshold into the courtyard, reporters flooded forward, shouting questions. Emma paused beneath the school's imposing sign, Jefferson High, a tradition of excellence now dripping with irony. She lifted the armrest shard from her backpack and held it aloft. "This is the new emblem of our tradition." Her words rang out, a powerful juxtaposition of broken machinery made whole by community resolve. The shard caught the afternoon light, refracting hope in every direction. But before she could elaborate on her next move, filing civil suits, pushing for federal investigations, rallying nationwide advocacy. A rumble of engines drew her gaze to the street. A line of support vehicles rolled in disability rights advocates, student-led organizations, and even Tyler Brooks, in an unmarked van, clutching a stack of signed petitions. Emma's heart constricted with cautious optimism. Could this fragile coalition withstand the backlash sure to come? Her voice trembled with both wonder and determination as she whispered, "We've shattered the silence. Now can we build something stronger? I can't promise the road ahead will be easy." Emma Carter spoke into the mic, voice steady, despite the weight of hundreds of cameras trained on her in the packed auditorium. On stage, her custom wheelchair now fully restored and upgraded with carbon fiber wings, and solar cells gleamed under the spotlights. The armrest shard, once twisted and broken, was mounted beside her as a symbol of resilience, a reminder that from the sharpest fractures come the strongest bonds. Just moments ago, Emma had crossed the finish line of the National Roll for Rights Conference, her speech echoing in every soul present. We broke their silence, and now we'll shatter the status quo. She'd risked it all, her privacy, her comfort, even her safety, by exposing Jefferson High's complicity. But standing here miles from the very cafeteria that tried to drown her out, she felt a surge of triumph, tempered by urgency. Because justice, she knew, was not a destination, but a journey paved with perpetual vigilance. Backstage, Jake Carter watched with pride as reporters peppered Emma with questions. Will she run for office? How would she keep the momentum alive? Tyler Brooks, now her appointed student liaison, stood off to the side, clutching the petition he'd circulated at his new community center job. His transformation from bully to ally was the twist none of their classmates saw coming. He stepped forward, offering Emma a hug that carried both apology and promise. "I'm with you," he whispered. In that embrace, Emma felt the true power of redemption, the idea that even the most complicit hearts could be awakened. Yet beneath the applause, Emma sensed the undercurrents of resistant school districts, lobbying against new disability policies, budget meetings where her name was met with quiet hostility, social media trolls questioning her motives. The struggle for equality, she realized, was like navigating an uncharted forest. Every victory cleared space for new obstacles. But the armrest shard on its pedestal glinted like a beacon. It represented every student whose voice had been muffled. Every policy erased every barrier erected in the name of convenience. As the confetti cannon boomed, Emma wheeled herself to the edge of the stage and looked out at the sea of faces, young and old, black and white, able-bodied and disabled, united in a constellation of hope. She raised her hand, the shard's angular silhouette framed against her palm. "This is our Constitution," she declared, written in broken metal and rebuilt with love. "We will not just roll forward, we will soar." A thunderous standing ovation erupted, but Emma's eyes fixed on a single empty seat at the front row reserved for Mayor Carl Johnson, whose resignation letter arrived too late to secure him a place here. His absence was a bitter acknowledgement that power can only endure when it listens. The shard's jagged edge caught the light one final time before she tucked it safely back into her backpack, a weapon for those who know how to wield truth. Stepping away from the microphone, Emma felt the familiar fire of purpose ignite within her chest. Beyond these walls lay classrooms that still whispered prejudice, boardrooms that still valued optics over people, and courts that still needed pressing reform. The shard would guide her, but her spirit would be the real engine. She glanced at Jake, at Tyler, at the sea of allies, and whispered, "Let's build wings that not even they can clip." The auditorium lights dimmed, but Emma Carter's journey was just beginning, one role, one speech, one policy at a time.